So, welcome back to Bubble Fan. Welcome back to Bubble to Netflix, and we're gonna be watching Stray Kids. Shout out to SKZ Head. This is my sponsor, SKZ Head, and more. So, thank you.
전부 다. 야, 그래도 내가 토커 찍고 할 때는 그래도 딴 거 막 입잖아. 아, 물론 뭐 창빈이 형도 그러고
And Stray Kids official.
대부분 다 그렇긴 한데 좀 심해. 좀 많이 심하.
Only this.
진짜 동네 편의점 가는 아저씨보다 이 친구는 베이프의 마일로라는 인형인데 스트레이키즈랑 베이프랑 한번 콜라보를 했었거든요. 저희한테만 주는 특별한 선물로 알고 있고요. 굉장히 저한테는 여러
What do you like better, this one or the other one?
아이템입니다. 옛날부터 베이프 정말 좋아했었는데 언제나 해서 콜라보까지 해서 정말 좋습니다. 이렇게 생겼고요. 여기 한코크가 있고 그리고 뒤에 제 이름이 적혀 있어요. 근데 친구들이랑 사진 찍기 많고 보여주면 이제 스테이가 기겁을 할 것 같아서 우연히도 그 전에 제가 한 번 잃어버렸거든요. 얼마 전 시상식에서 무료로 나눠주길래 하나 받았습니다. 이렇게 붙여서 하는 보조 배터리를 처음 봤어요. 이틀 정도 됐는데 잘 쓰고 있어요 지금. 감사합니다. 상도 받고 보조 배터리도 받고. 그래도 이 친구가 하드와 뭐 신분증도 있고 그리고 제일 비싸고요. 얘는 진짜 잃어버리면 안 돼. 얘는 잃어버리면 큰일 나요. 이 친구는 베이프. 승민이 형? 한 20% 정도 10% 줬어. 무대에서 엉덩이를 많이 만짐을 당하죠 제가. 투어 때 너코 많이 만졌나? 많이 만졌어. 써? 그렇다고 얘기하면 맞는 거지. 아닐걸? 아니 조직 감성에 솔직하게 얘기해. 아니 조직 않았죠. 그거 어떻게 줬어?
Oh, they wouldn't.
진짜 너무했다. 잘했다. 진짜 고생했어. 좀 누구세요?
누구세요? 나 이거 드라마에서 본 그 화장실에서 혼자 울고 있는 메이크업 다 번진 김승민이 너무 슬프게 울어가지고 거기서
얘 어떻게 얘 눈 어떡할 건데 얘.
드라마 한 편 보는 거 같았어.
야, 이 형은 또 어떻게 해?
자, 그런데 얘들아 고생했다.
고생하셨습니다. 화이팅!
하나, 둘, 셋. 후. 진짜 받고 싶었고, 진짜 갖고 싶었고, 너무너무 기다렸고 했던 그 대상을 저희가 이걸 받게 됐는데 정말 지금까지 너무너무 감사드립니다, 스테이.
스테이 감사합니다. 스테이가 만들어주셨습니다. 감사합니다. 스테이더
Big.
세상이다. 진짜 너무했다. 잘했다.
Oh, I'm crying. I am. No,
누구세요?
야, 눈물이.
누구세요? 나 이거 드라마에서
저희
본 그
맞다.
화장실.
like that. Go up. It's right. Look it. Look, see? I thought that was just it's stuff.
실에서 혼자 울고 있는 메이크업 다 번진 김승민이 너무 슬프게 울어가지고 거기서
얘 어떻게 얘 눈 어떡할 건데 얘.
드라마 한 편 보는 거 같았어.
야, 이 형은 또 어떻게 해?
Don't cry.
자,
Ooh.
고생했다.
고생하셨습니다. 화이팅!
하나, 둘, 셋. 후. 진짜 받고 싶었고, 진짜 갖고 싶었고, 너무너무 기다렸고
Take it.
했던 그 대상을 저희가
Look.
됐는데 정말 지금까지 너무 감사드립니다, 스테이.
스테이 감사합니다. 스테이.
I'm putting on good. I don't care about yourself. That's just.
스테이더 스테이의 대상이다.
Whatever. Be quiet. You. I always do something.
진짜 너무했다. 잘했다. 진짜 고생했어.
Look at me. I'm talking.
누구세요? 나 이거 드라마에서 본 그 화장실에서 혼자 울고 있는 메이크업 다 번진 김승민이 너무 슬프게 울어가지고 거기서
얘 어떻게 얘 눈 어떡할 건데 얘.
드라마 한 편 보는 거 같았어.
야, 이 형은 또 어떻게 해? 자,
그런데 얘들아 고생했다.
고생하셨습니다. 화이팅! 하나, 둘, 셋. 후.
진짜 받고 싶었고 진짜 갖고 싶었고 너무너무 기다렸고 했던 그 대상을 저희가 이걸 받게 됐는데 정말 지금까지 너무너무 감사드립니다. 스테이.
스테이 감사합니다. 스테이가 만들어주셨습니다. 감사합니다. 스테이더. 스테이의 대상이다.
Bro, what is this?
멤버들이랑 떨어져 앉으시
괜찮아요. 저희는 괜찮아요. 저희는 괜찮아요. 오히려
근데 혼자 다른 데 있어.
저희는 은영만 두고 다 나가 있으면 되겠다. 갈래. 미안해. 인생 모두 남 똑같은
민호 씨는 볼수록 귀여운 스타일은 아닌가요?
아전딱 보.
As you can see, now that is a real honey bun, yo. A bun with honey on top. As you can see, this is what I'll be watching on home feed. Do not judge. But this. Oh yeah, I was looking at suits like that. Suits, but.
Okay, Mama, I'm gonna give you your goldfish, but you can't eat it. You can't eat it until I come back, okay? I'm gonna be right back, okay? Don't eat it, okay? Don't eat it. Don't eat it, Mama. Okay? You're not gonna eat it? Me and Mommy are gonna go do pee-pee and then we're gonna come back.
People
Don't eat it,
together,
okay?
what?
Won't let elementary school students leave because you don't trust them? Back in 4th grade, our school had this rule where we couldn't leave class without a hall pass and teachers almost never gave them out. They thought we'd just mess around in the hallways or skip class entirely, like we were criminals or something. Most kids would fake stomach aches to go to the nurse, but I never did that stuff. My mom was actually the school nurse, so she'd know if I was lying anyway. One Tuesday during art class, my stomach started feeling weird. We were making clay sculptures, and the smell of the wet clay mixed with paint was making everything worse. I kept working on my project, thinking it would pass. Sometimes you just feel off and then you're fine, right? But it kept getting worse. My mouth started watering in that bad way, and I could feel my stomach doing flips. I walked up to Mrs. Palmer's desk. She was grading papers and didn't even look up. "Can I go get some water at the fountain?" I asked. "No," she said, still not looking at me. "Go back to your seat." I stood there for a second, confused. I wasn't some troublemaker. I had perfect attendance and never got in trouble, but she just kept writing on her papers like I wasn't even there. I went back to my table and tried to focus on my clay giraffe. My hands were shaking a little. The girl next to me, Brittany, asked if I was okay. I just nodded and kept working, but my stomach was getting worse, way worse. I could feel everything churning inside me. I needed water. Maybe if I drank something, it would settle down. 5 minutes later, I walked back up to Mrs. Palmer's desk. This time I used my best polite voice, the one I used when asking my parents for something important. "Mrs. Palmer, can I please go to the water fountain? I really need water." She finally looked up at me, annoyed. "I already said no. Go back to your seat and don't ask again. You can get water at lunch." Lunch was 40 minutes away. I walked back to my table, and that's when I felt it. That specific feeling in your throat and stomach where you know exactly what's about to happen, and there's no stopping it. I tried to swallow it down, but my body had other plans. I turned toward Mrs. Palmer's desk, took 2 steps, and threw up everywhere. All over her brown leather shoes, all over the bottom of her tan pants, all over the floor around her desk. It just kept coming. The whole class went silent. Someone gasped. Mrs. Palmer jumped up from her chair so fast she knocked over her coffee mug. "Oh my goodness! Bathroom! Go to the bathroom!" But it was too late. I was already done. The classroom smelled terrible. Kids were covering their noses and making faces. Mrs. Palmer was standing there with vomit dripping off her shoes, holding her arms out like she didn't know what to do with them. "Go see your mother," she said quietly, her face bright red. "Tell her you're sick." I grabbed my backpack and walked out, leaving wet footprints down the hallway. When I got to the nurse's office, Mom took one look at me and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. "I threw up on Mrs. Palmer," I said. "I asked to get water twice and she said no." Mom's face changed. She didn't say anything, just handed me a clean shirt from the spare clothes bin and called Dad to pick me up. But here's the thing, Mom didn't let it go. She talked to the principal that same day. By the next week, there was a new rule. If a student asked to get water or use the bathroom and seemed sick, teachers had to let them go. No questions asked. Mrs. Palmer had to attend some kind of meeting about it. When I came back to school 3 days later, Mrs. Palmer had a trash can next to every table in the art room. She never said no when someone asked to leave again. Not to me, not to anyone. Won't let elementary school
Seller made cousin drive an hour and backed out of deal. We made him drive to my house and got paid less than agreed before. Spotify hacker got a surprise. So there's this kid at school named Ben who thinks he's some kind of tech genius. He's always bragging about how he can hack into anything and showing off with his fancy coding skills. Most people just ignore him, but he made the mistake of targeting me. Last month I was sitting in the library working on an essay when Ben comes over and starts looking at my laptop screen. I had Spotify open in another tab because I was listening to music while I worked. He starts laughing and says my playlist is trash and asks if he can show me some real music. I said no thanks and went back to my work. But Ben doesn't take no for an answer. He pulls out his phone and starts typing away, and suddenly my Spotify starts skipping songs. Then it switches to some death metal band I've never heard of. I look at him and he's got this smug grin on his face. He whispers that he's connected to my account and can control it from his phone. Then he starts blasting the volume up and down just to mess with me. The librarian comes over and tells me to keep it down, which was embarrassing because everyone was staring. I told Ben to stop, but he just kept going. Spotify hacker got a
What's that,
surprise.
guys?
So there's this kid at school with explicit names. I was mortified because all my friends could see this stuff. Librarian comes over and tells me to keep it down, which was embarrassing because everyone was staring. I told Ben to stop, but he just kept going. He changed my playlist name to something stupid and started adding weird songs to it. When I tried to change it back on my laptop, he would just override it from his phone. It was like playing tug of war with my own account. The worst part was when he started following random people on my account and liking their playlists. Some of them were really inappropriate ones with explicit names. I was mortified because all my friends could see this stuff in their activity feed. After about 20 minutes of this torture, I finally had enough. I grabbed my stuff and left the library, but even at home he was still messing with my account. Songs would randomly start playing in the middle of the night, or my playlists would get deleted and recreated with terrible music. This went on for 3 days. Ben would walk past me in the hallway and smirk, knowing he had complete control over my Spotify. He even changed my profile picture to some meme of a crying baby. I tried changing my password, but somehow he still had access. That's when I came up with my plan. I did some research and found out that Spotify has a feature where you can report unauthorized access to your account. But I wanted to do more than just get him kicked off. I started documenting everything. I took screenshots of him changing my playlists, recorded videos of songs suddenly switching while I was using the app, and even got my friend to witness him controlling my music from across the classroom. Then I found out something interesting. Ben had been bragging to other people about hacking not just my account, but several other students' accounts too. He thought it was hilarious that he could mess with people's music and make them look stupid. So I reached out to those other kids and found out they had the same experience. Random music playing at inappropriate times, embarrassing songs showing up in their recent activity, playlists getting messed with. Some of them had even gotten in trouble with their parents when explicit songs started playing through their home speakers. We all decided to report this together, but instead of just going to Spotify, we went to the school administration first. Turns out what Ben was doing counts as cyberbullying and harassment, and our school has a zero tolerance policy for that kind of stuff. The school called his parents and mine for a meeting. When they showed all the evidence we had collected, Ben's face went completely white. His parents were furious because they had no idea their son was using his computer skills to torment other students. But here's where it gets really good. The school decided to involve the police because technically what Ben did was unauthorized access to other people's accounts, which is actually illegal. They called it computer fraud and abuse. Ben started crying and begging everyone not to press charges. He promised he would stop and even offered to help us secure our accounts better, but it was too late. The damage was done and we were all fed up with his behavior. The police officer explained that even though we were all minors, this kind of digital harassment was taken seriously. Ben ended up getting charged with multiple counts of unauthorized computer access and cyberbullying. His parents had to hire a lawyer and pay thousands of dollars in legal fees. He got suspended from school for 2 weeks and had to do community service. The court also ordered him to stay away from all of us and prohibited him from using any social media or streaming services for 6 months. Spotify hacker got a surprise.
Damn.
So there's this kid at school named Ben who thinks he's some...
I saw this girl in my dorm hallway act like I was trying to steal her boyfriend because
You've probably seen the meme.
My neighbor kept parking in my driveway, so I parked behind him and went out of town. So this guy Brett moved in next door like 6 months ago and immediately decided my driveway was community property or something. First time it happened, I thought maybe he was just confused about where his property line was. I left a note on his windshield that said, "Hey man, that's my driveway. Yours is the one on the left." Pretty reasonable, right? Next day, his truck was there again. I knocked on his door, and he answered in a stained tank top holding a beer at like 2 in the afternoon. I told him again that he was parked in my driveway, and he just shrugged and said his driveway had a crack in it, and he didn't want to mess up his suspension. His truck was a beat-up Ford from like 2003. I'm pretty sure that suspension was already done for. I told him I needed him to move it, and he said he would later. Later turned into 3 days. I had to park on the street and haul groceries an extra 30 feet in the rain. When I finally saw him outside, I asked him what the deal was, and he told me to relax because it wasn't that big of a deal. He actually said I was being dramatic, so I stopped being nice. I called a towing company, and they said unless I had it posted as a private driveway with signs, they couldn't do anything without police involvement. I called the non-emergency line, and the cop who showed up basically said it was a civil issue, and I should take him to small claims court if it kept happening. He did tell Brett to move the truck, though, and Brett did with this huge attitude like I had just ruined his whole life. 2 weeks later, his truck was back in my driveway.
good.
At this point, I was losing my mind. I had asked nicely. I had asked firmly. I had gotten the cops involved, and this guy still thought he could do whatever he wanted. Then my cousin Jesse called and asked if I wanted to go camping upstate for a long weekend. 4 days, leaving Thursday morning. morning. I said yes immediately because I needed to get away from my idiot neighbor. But Wednesday night, I looked outside and saw Brett's truck sitting in my driveway again. And that's when I had the idea. Thursday morning, I packed my car with all my camping stuff and drove it around the block. Then I walked back, got in my old Honda that I barely drive anymore because it burns oil like crazy, and parked it directly behind Brett's truck, like bumper to bumper close. Then I took the keys and left for 4 days. I didn't tell anyone. I just left. When I got back Monday afternoon, there were 6 texts from Brett and 2 from some number I didn't recognize. The first text from Brett said, "Hey man, I need to move my truck. Can you move your car?" That was Thursday at noon. By Friday, the texts were getting more angry. Saturday, he called me a jerk and said he had to call out of work. Sunday, he said he was going to have my car towed, and I texted back from a gas station saying good luck. It's my property and my driveway. When I pulled onto my street, I could see Brett standing in his front yard with his arms crossed. His truck was still trapped, and my Honda was exactly where I left it. I parked my good car on the street, walked past him without saying anything, and went inside. He started banging on my door 5 minutes later. I opened it, and he was red in the face yelling about how I made him miss work, and how he had to get his girlfriend to drive him around all weekend. I just stared at him and said, "Well, you were parked in my driveway, so I parked in my driveway too. What's the problem?" He said I blocked him in on purpose, and I said, "Yeah, I did." He sputtered for a second and then said, "That was illegal," and I told him no, it wasn't, because both vehicles were on my property. He threatened to sue me, and I said, "Go ahead. I have 6 months of documentation showing you trespassing on my property." His girlfriend came outside and dragged him back to their house. I moved my Honda like an hour later just because I didn't actually want it sitting there forever, but I made him sweat first. Brett's truck hasn't been in my driveway since. He won't even look at me when we're both outside. His girlfriend apologized to me once when she was getting mail and said he's stubborn, but he got the message. I just nodded. My neighbor kept... Were you ever that 1 in a million? If so? My neighbor kept parking in my driveway, so I parked behind him and went out of town. So this guy Brett moved in next door like 6 months ago and immediately decided my driveway was community property or something. First time it happened, I thought maybe... Were you ever that 1 in a million? If so, what's your story? My wife Beth went through 7 miscarriages before falling pregnant again. Every doctor told us to stop trying, that the chances of a successful pregnancy were less than 1%. But Beth had this feeling about lucky number 8. This pregnancy was different. Beth had horrible morning sickness, something she never experienced before. The doctors monitored her closely, expecting the worst, but week after week, the baby kept growing. When we hit the 12-week mark, I caught Beth talking to her belly at 3 a.m., promising our daughter she'd give her the world if she just stayed. Around 20 weeks, Beth started bleeding. We rushed to the hospital, both of us crying silently in the car. The doctor did an ultrasound, and instead of the grim face we expected, she looked confused. She called in another doctor, then another. Turns out our baby had a rare condition where her heart formed outside her chest. The chances of survival? 1 in a million. The doctors suggested termination, saying even if she survived birth, she'd need immediate surgery with a 95% mortality rate. Beth refused. She spent the next 4 months on strict bed rest, researching everything about the condition. She found a surgeon in Boston who'd done this surgery 3 times. All 3 babies survived. The catch? He only took cases he believed had a chance. I recorded Beth talking to our baby, explaining how the surgery would work, promising her she'd be okay. I sent that video to the surgeon. 2 days later, his office called. He agreed to take our case. Beth delivered at 38 weeks. The surgical team was ready. They whisked our daughter away immediately. The surgery took 14 hours. Beth and I sat in the waiting room, not speaking, just holding hands. The surgeon came out looking exhausted but smiling. Our daughter made it. He said in 30 years, he'd never seen a baby so determined to live. She'd grabbed his finger mid-surgery, her tiny heart beating strong despite being outside her chest. We named her Aurora. After the sunrise, we watched from Beth's hospital window while waiting for surgery. The hospital staff called her Miracle Baby. Every doctor who'd told us to give up came to see her. One actually cried. Aurora spent 2 months in the NICU. Beth slept in a chair every night singing lullabies and telling her how brave she was. The nurses said they'd never seen a baby respond to a parent's voice like Aurora did to Beth's. Today, Aurora is 5. Her chest has a scar she calls her warrior mark. She's obsessed with becoming a doctor. Last week, she performed surgery on her teddy bear, carefully wrapping bandages around its chest, just like they did to me, Mommy. The surgeons in Boston still use her case to teach medical students. Were you ever the...
Okay, Dipper.
What's your...
Yeah.
I didn't start it, but I definitely finished it moment. My stepdad Greg had this stupid rule that I couldn't eat anything in the house without asking permission first. Not just snacks or treats. Literally everything. Want an apple? Ask Greg. Need a glass of water? Better check with Greg first. He'd installed a camera in the kitchen to make sure I followed his ridiculous food monitoring system. The worst part was he'd make me wait sometimes just to mess with me. I'd ask for a sandwich and he'd go, let me think about it, while scrolling through his phone for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, his own kids could raid the fridge whenever they wanted. After 3 months of this garbage, I'd had enough. If Greg wanted to control every bite of food in his house, I'd give him exactly what he asked for. Total compliance. I started asking permission for absolutely everything. And I mean everything. Greg, can I have permission to swallow my own saliva? Greg, I need authorization to breathe through my mouth, which might accidentally consume air molecules. Greg, requesting clearance to lick my lips. They're chapped and technically that's consuming dead skin cells. At first he thought I was being funny. He'd laugh and wave me off, but I kept going. During dinner, I'd raise my hand before each bite. Permission to consume this green bean? How about this piece of chicken? Oh wait, I need approval for the sauce on the chicken too, right? point, I'd text him from school. Emergency food situation. My stomach is digesting the breakfast you approved. Do I need permission for my body to process it? When he had friends over to watch football, I'd interrupt every few minutes. Sorry to bother you guys, but I need Greg's permission to drink my own saliva. It's been building up for a while now. His buddies started giving him weird looks. One of them asked if I had some kind of medical condition. The breaking point came when Greg's boss came over for dinner. Important guy, apparently. Greg was trying to impress him with my mom's cooking. Right in the middle of the boss telling some story, I walked into the dining room with a serious expression. Greg, I need emergency food authorization. My body is about to automatically digest the food currently in my stomach without your permission. Should I try to stop the digestive process, or do you approve of my intestines continuing their work? The boss stopped mid-sentence and stared at me. Then he looked at Greg. What's this about? Before Greg could answer, I continued. Oh, and I'm producing saliva right now without permission. It's happening faster than I can ask. Should I spit it out, or is it okay to swallow? Greg's face turned bright red. Just go to your room. But I need permission to walk, which requires burning calories from food you previously approved. Also, my room has air in it, and breathing consumes oxygen molecules. Do I have clearance for— Enough! Greg exploded, slamming his hand on the table so hard the water glasses jumped. The boss raised his eyebrows. Greg, why is your stepson asking permission to exist? That's when my mom, who'd been quietly watching from the kitchen doorway, finally spoke up. Because Greg decided our 16-year-old needs permission to eat food in his own home. The boss looked between Greg and me, then slowly put down his fork. You make the kid ask permission to eat? Greg stammered some excuse about teaching responsibility, but you could see the boss was done with dinner. He left 20 minutes later. After the boss left, Greg cornered me in the hallway. You embarrassed me in front of my boss. I was just following your rules exactly how you set them up, I said innocently. Food consumption requires permission. Technically, everything I do involves consuming something. Mom appeared behind Greg. Maybe it's time to change the rule? Greg looked defeated. Fine, no more asking permission for food, but no wasting anything. Deal, I said. Then I paused. Oh, but I'll still need permission for one thing, Greg sighed. What? Can I have permission to stop asking for permission? Even Greg had to laugh at that one. He never tried controlling my food again. What's your I didn't start it, but I definitely finished it moment? My stepdad Greg had this stupid rule that I couldn't eat any—
We're picking all the grapes, so my parents rent this.
I'm gonna make a YouTube video because video.
Yo. Look at this hamburger.
Big fat.
No, because he said he has to eat it. Or what it says. That's hamburger. Ice. Look at this, look at this. Ice.
Oh my god.
No. The comedy center. Honey bun. Dang, but that's a lot of honey, yo. No. He's eating cake on top of cheese.
Bye, y'all.